者などいない戦いに疲れ果て星空を見上げる泣くことも叶わない I don't need 昨日などいらない I don't need
Hello, welcome to Maison Otaku. Come in, have a seat.
I'm Justin,
And I'm Mike.
and we're here to talk to you about anime,
Once again.
as we usually do.
Yes.
Good show this week, good show normally. First to lead off, a couple of good scores. I made both of them, but one of them was for Mike because he is my friend, and I need something to lord over him in the future.
Yes. Got the Macross 2 role-playing book. I've had one of the source books before, but this is actually the core rule book, so that's nice to have. So if you like Macross 2 stuff, a lot of, this is the old Palladium system, so it's of course 1,000,001 rules and stats. Every single weapon on every mech is represented in some way, shape, or form, so this stuff's really fun.
Yeah. Palladium's a lot of fun if you like really dense tabletop gaming, and if you want a lot of variety. That's one of their big deals. They put out a ton of source books in the late 80s up to the early 2000s, including every single genre out there. Me, I got something a little bit more close to home for myself. This is a short program. It's actually a collection of short stories on a variety of slice-of-life topics by Mitsuru Adachi. Adachi, neat guy, creator of Touch, which was one of the big sports shoujos of the late 80s, early 90s. Neat guy. Art's fantastic. It's right in that great space around Rumiko Takahashi and Kimagure Orange Road, that sort of thing. So, cool art, plus it's large format.
Yes.
If you find manga in a nice big plus size like this, as opposed to the traditional trade paperback, this is the stuff to have. Especially if you find any of the hardcover stuff out there. Because
Yes.
there is hardcover anime. Well, hardcover manga.
Yeah. Well, there's both, as we've talked about before, but that's a previous episode.
That is a previous episode. We get into a lot of stuff like that.
Yes.
And some of these folks out there have no idea what we're on
Yes,
about.
it's been brought to our attention that some of you just have no idea what the heck we're talking about, so we're gonna turn our house into a classroom here and introduce you guys to Anime 101.
Yes. And what better person to bring up just how far above we're talking than somebody who is not ashamed to point out, I have no idea what the hell you guys are talking about or why you keep going on like this. Mike's mom. So sit back. We're actually going to turn over the camera to someone else.
Hey there, I'm Mike's mom. He asked me to come in to talk to you guys today, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I love anime. When I was about 9 years old, I went to the Lyceum Theater. There was a movie called Magic Boy. I saw it, I was hooked, and unfortunately, that addiction has been passed down to Mike in our family. That's our big shame. But anyway, okay, a little bit about the kind of anime I like. I think what I like about it so much, I like the moods they set. I like the way they do it with colors, the way they do it with lighting. I was just watching Gilgamesh the other day, which as far as animation goes really sucks, but the backgrounds, the way they do everything, it's just very monochrome. And then all of a sudden you get this flash of color. I love things like that about it. My son, Mike, as I said, I've passed down my addiction to him, and unfortunately he has gone a little overboard with it. We went to Otakon. Otakon is the mecca as far as conventions go. It's in Baltimore every year. It's a whole weekend, and it's just great. But the time we went, well, Mike and his VHS tapes, right? He has a huge collection of them, and he made a big addition to his collection that day. 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning. I'm wandering the streets of Baltimore downtown going, where am I going to find a box that he can put these tapes in so we can get them on the plane to get them home? Luckily, there was a Taco Bell that was open that did have a box, and it was an amazing smell to the box. But we did get them home, and he was very happy. I've enjoyed watching Maison Otaku, and the problem is, though, I do have some questions. They throw around a lot of terms that I sort of know. Some of them I don't know at all. So I've compiled a list of questions, and hopefully I will be a little less bewildered when I watch the next episode.
I suppose because National Geographic was taken?
Yeah. Yeah, Maison Otaku is a reference, of course, to that very well-known Rumiko Takahashi anime, Maison Otaku, and it's a joke that I came up on my own and totally didn't steal from CDS Productions.
Absolutely. That was totally our own.
Yes. But in all seriousness, I had gotten my apartment a few months before we started the show, and I figure it may not be my house, but it's my home, so I'm gonna name it. So I put up a sign out front that you saw in the Season 1 intro. Welcome to Maison Otaku. The sign actually came first and then the show.
Yeah. To further elaborate on the joke, maison is the French word for house. Maison Ikoku is the house Ikoku, which is the apartment complex from the show of the same name. Otaku is a somewhat cribbed Japanese term. In Japanese, it generally means an unhealthily obsessed individual. The American fandom for anime has taken it and twisted it to mean simply a very enthusiastic anime fan. As Mike and I are that, as this is a house of rabid anime fans, Maison Otaku works.
Okay, I guess we'll start with the awkward one. Yaoi, it's
gay.
Yeah, it's gay.
Literally, though, not as a pejorative.
It's quite literally gay.
Yes. That is what the word means. In reference to anime, because there are actually two genres that deal with male-to-male romance.
Well, yeah, you have the shonenai, which literally means man love, where it's just a romance series about two men, and then you have yaoi, where it's basically
more sexualized.
Yeah, it's essentially gay hentai.
Yeah.
On the brighter note, shoujo, the word literally meaning girl, it's chicks comics and anime.
Shoujo is a really, really broad term. It covers most everything from a lot of your hard romances like The Wallflower or Boys B to your magical girl shows like Wedding Peach or Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
There's also a slightly more mature genre of shoujo called josei, which is women's comics.
Yeah.
But that's really the all-encompassing term.
Yeah, it's like shonen. It ranges from, it could be,
It could be Eye Shield 21.
Yeah, your sports anime, your previously mentioned Shonen Jump tripe, and several other things. It's a broad blanket term, essentially. But like he said, the iconic ones are, your Sailor Moons and your Fushigi Yugis.
Yes.
Moe!
Moe! Oh boy.
God, we hate it.
Yeah, this is... Alright. I actually had to consult a friend who understands this quite a lot better than me. And if he's out there, G-Man, it still doesn't make any sense to me, but thanks anyway. Moe effectively means an art style that has character designs that make you want to embrace the character, give you a squidgy feeling.
Yeah. The end result, of course, is actually kind of a counterpoint to what the emphasis was in the 80s and early 90s and even before, where it used to be, let's make these characters look as mature as we can. With Moe, it's let's make these characters look as childlike as we can.
Right. It's supposed to encourage a protective feeling in the viewer rather than a desirous feeling. Sort of a example of the, like Mike said, the switch in emphasis, because if you go back 10, 15 years, you see that a very exaggerated sexuality to a lot of anime, even where it's not even appropriate.
Well, I was going to say, just look at the supposed 14-year-olds of Sailor Moon.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have a sort of bizarre turnaround where you have 20-year-olds
Looking like they're 12.
looking like they're 12. It's an odd thing. It's not intended to be sexual, but it is.
It ends up being.
It really puts the whole fandom in an odd place.
Yes. But, moving on, Shinji.
Shinji is not a term. Shinji is a cancer.
Yes. When we talk about Shinji or refer to characters as Shinjis, we are, of course, referring to Shinji Ikari, the main mecha pilot from Evangelion.
Yes.
Who is also the whiniest bitch to ever whine and bitch.
Right. If you would like to get a good example of how you should feel about Shinji Ikari, actually the webcomic Critical Miss did it best. So we'll just put a link there in the bottom to that particular comic, and you'll get all you need to know about the guy. But effectively, anytime we feel a character is behaving in a similar fashion to this infamous protagonist, we just call him a Shinji.
Yes.
Because that show is very iconic, it's very prevalent, we're not going to dodge the fact that it's iconic and prevalent, so it's a good shorthand.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got a whole lot to say about space operas. Space operas are a fantastic favorite of Mike and I's, but as far as answering what one is, we'll turn it over to literary critics Hartman and Kramer.
So as you can see, it's basically everything that me and Justin like.
Absolutely. It is a fantastic genre, a fantastic approach to science fiction. The grand sweep of great heroes, of distant planets, of wars between factions. Definitively, there are, I'd say, maybe a dozen that are 100% behind that definition. Most notably, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Space Pirate Captain Harlock.
And of course, we have Star Wars.
Star Wars itself really popularized the idea. In truth, whenever we use the term space opera, it's usually as a stand-in term for a large, sprawling epic in space.
Well, that really just comes from the word machine or mechanical. A mech, robot, same thing really. Fun fact, robot is derived from the Czech word robota, which literally means slave.
Yes. Robots are mecha, but not all mecha are robots. And whenever you hear the term mecha thrown around, particularly in terms like mecha design, that's just shorthand for mechanical design.
Yeah, you know, your cars, planes, and of course robots.
Yes. As far as Transformers being robots, yes. Transformers are a form of robot. Transformers are mecha. But mecha are not necessarily robots, because robot typically refers to an individual, being.
Right. Well, yeah, well, see, and again, even that has some leeway, because you can be talking about a robot as an automaton, but, you know, stuff like, you know, Mazinger Z would be a piloted robot.
Right.
Or, you know, even remote-controlled like you have with Gigantor.
Usually, in fiction, the divide is you have your androids, which are sentient.
Well, more to the point, an android is also often referred to as a bioroid, especially in 80s cyberpunk, is a robot that's built with artificial biological components.
Yeah. A mechanical man. Robot is a further step away from a being, in that a robot can be piloted, is programmed, isn't necessarily sentient, but is still man in function. Then finally we get to mecha, and mecha is any mechanical.
Yeah, it's again another broad spectrum term.
It's a very broad term. We probably haven't done the complete explanation justice.
But yeah, it's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Pretty much what it says, fan subs is short for fan subtitles. These are series, and of course it doesn't necessarily have to be anime, but in the context of this we're talking about anime fan subs, that aren't released here, that are, you know, of course in Japanese, and fans who speak Japanese who want to have a release of this will take these and then translate it themselves, add in their own subtitles, and distribute them through various means. Now, of course, the history of fan subs is very interesting.
Yeah, fan sub history is tremendous, because it really is the basis for a lot of the more unusual sectors of the hobby.
Yeah, as we talked about in our Dirty Pair episode, one of the only ways you could see it for like the first 7-8 years before it actually got a U.S. release. Well, you had to know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy in Japan, get your 5th or 6th or sometimes even 7th generation bootleg VHS, and then you have to know a guy who knows a guy who has video equipment so you can add in the subtitles.
Right. Usually done with an Amiga computer.
Yep.
Now, if the phrases 7th generation VHS tape and Amiga computer mean anything to you, you probably were around in that generation fans, so you know the pain. These days, with video editing software and digital distribution, it's a ton easier. Fan subs are frequently used with licensed shows these days. We're only saying this as
Statement of fact.
Neither propagating nor dismissing. So, controversy averted. Here's hoping. They're frequently used to release episodes of a licensed property ahead of the licensed issue, or to correct issues in translation. Dubbing, of course, requires matching to lip flaps and so forth, so it's very tricky to have 100% accurate dialogue and an actually well-flowing script. So there are alterations that invariably will happen. Furthermore, a licensor is frequently bound by target audience.
Yeah, they generally go overboard with localization.
Yeah.
And the end result of that is in most fan subs you have much more literal and much more true to the original translations, oftentimes with cultural footnotes appearing on screen.
Right. With many fan subs. On the flip side, many fan subs also have entirely too literal translations that miss the intent of the original creator, who has input in the official translations. So when you get a line from the fan sub, it will read the absolute literal translation, but it may miss some of the connotation, some of the subtext that was originally intended in the script, that a slightly altered translation gets more accurately.
Yeah, and well, then of course you also have this some instances like the Oh My Goddess OVAs and Samurai Pizza Cats, where the original creators actually like the U.S. script better.
Right. So, from all that, please take that we will neither recommend nor dismiss what either has to offer. Your best bet: research individual titles.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind that in some cases, most famously Legend of Galactic Heroes, there is no US release, so that's your option.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I'll reiterate. OVA stands for Original Video Animation, or anime. Anime is just a Japanese shortened version of animation anyway. OAV, exact same thing, just order of the words switched around. This is an animated feature that is released straight to video. Sometimes it's a series, sometimes it's a movie. In the context of the Japanese market, all those crappy straight-to-video Disney sequels? Think that, but the reverse in terms of quality and budget.
Right. The OAV format, which is something we're going to cover very extensively here on Maison Otaku, we're devoting an entire episode to the very first OAV ever created, as well as the very first OAV ever released here in the States, because it was a really fantastic period of time. The idea was, here are the demands of television. This many episodes, this much length of an episode, and by the way, what's your toy deal?
Yeah.
Creators wanted a little bit more freedom, a little bit more flexibility. Basically took the humongous amount of money floating around in the mid-'80s Japanese economy, found some investors and said, hey, we've got this new technology, the home video. I'll just release my stuff straight to it.
Yep. And I'd say well up until the mid-'90s, the OVA sector was booming. It was just pumping out work after. Of course, not all of them were quality. We had our, Princess Minerva's and other crap mixed in.
Yeah. But it was definitely a fantastic format. It's kind of a format that has dwindled off a bit along with home video.
Mm. Well, and ideas, especially in the recent decades, along with theatrical releases.
Yes. But certainly, for a period of time, it was where you went for unique, quality, short creations. Kind of annoying, really.
Sometimes, yeah.
Chibi is a cannibalized Japanese term for small, cute things. Mm. It specifically refers to a somewhat babyish version of an adult character. Not to be confused with, although slightly in tandem with super deformed, which is when you take an adult character design and then you squish and stretch in order to make it more expressive, typically for comedy and cuteness.
Although in a lot of cases the two are interchangeable, though not always.
Right.
I mean, the word chibi literally just means little in Japanese.
And you see it in not as much as you used to, but you still see it sometimes. Dragon Half, which I've given as a recommendation previously, is a great example of super deformed and chibi artwork. So if you want a textbook lesson in how it's applied, watch Dragon Half.
Yep.
Not that you shouldn't have already watched Dragon Half by this point.
And it generally had a couple different applications. In the case of Dragon Half, they would switch art styles based on the mood of what was going on, as we talked about in his recommendation. And, of course, you had things that we discussed like SD Gundam, and if you're a fan of Gull Force and all that, you know, had Scramble Wars and 10 Little Gull Force, where they just did little small-bodied parody versions of the show. So, generally, it's used for silliness.
Yes. Anime innovator and noted crazy person, Go Nagai. We like this man very much.
Yes.
To encapsulate, he created the piloted mech. He created the transformation sequence.
The nude transformation sequence.
Nude transformation sequence.
It's important to note when we're talking about Go Nagai.
It's important to note the nudity when we're talking Go Nagai. He created the forerunner to the modern hentai.
Yeah, basically.
He created the demonic anti-hero. All of this in just a short 5-year span in the 70s.
Yes.
The man is a rock star. Quite literally, as it is.
Yes. In fact, I'm reminded of one great anecdote where he showed up to a convention with 2 Keiko Kamen cosplayers on either side of him, 4 total.
Yes.
And he just walks in, and I believe as you ordered, just with the look on his face saying, "Hi, I'm Go Nagai. Don't you wish you were me?"
Yes. He shows up, leather jacket, big aviator sunglasses, Keiko Kamen cosplayers, accurate Keiko Kamen cosplayers on either arm, then with another Keiko Kamen cosplayer on their arm, shaking hands, grinning like the cat grinning like the cat that ate the canary. He loves violence. He loves nude women.
And he loves sideburns.
And he loves sideburns. And he is one of the most influential people in anime of all time. Right up there with Tezuka, right up there with Matsumoto, right up there with Nishikaze.
Yes. Yeah, essentially, if you are one of those guys who like shows where guys get into robots and then yell a lot, we have Go Nagai to thank.
Thank you.
Clamp. Yeah.
Clamp.
As I'm sure you've guessed, this is a point of disagreement between us, but in terms of the what is Clamp, Clamp is a group of 4, is it? Female, originally started out as doujinshi artists. Doing mostly shoujo.
Yeah. They had several breakout hits in the late 90s. Magic Knight's Ray Earth, Tokyo Babylon, and quickly built up a reputation for very pretty, very flowery character designs, somewhat off-kilter stories, frequently poking fun at genre conventions, and at the outset actually looked to be one of the big quality manga circles.
Yep. Unfortunately, at least for my tastes, Magic Knight Ray Earth, its artwork wrote checks that its story couldn't cash. Tokyo Babylon was okay, but X, well, we talked about that.
Yeah, Mike and I differ on X, and we'll actually do a whole episode on things that Mike and I differ on, so we won't go too far.
But we can definitely agree that the Rintaro film was disappointing, to say the least.
Yes.
Let's see. Well, we can both agree that Cardcaptor Sakura sucked.
We can both at least agree that Cardcaptor Sakura is not having us as a target audience.
Yeah, I can definitely get on that.
It's a lot of the things that Clamp is well known for are not necessarily things that, going back to the space opera answer, Mike and I like. Furthermore, as they go on and repeat themselves
and lose the plot
and simplify and lose the plot because there's nobody telling them no anymore because their name is enough clout to gain its own popularity.
Yeah, we end up with stuff like Tsubasa Chronicles.
End up with stuff like Tsubasa Chronicles, which is so entirely up its own ass, it's actually a Mobius loop of crap.
Yeah, this is... Quentin Tarantino looks at this and is like, well, they put me in my place.
Yes. Which is not to say that they're not still good at what they do well. Mike differs with me, but I enjoyed Holic. The XTV series was fantastic. Wish is one of my favorite manga, although it's one of their older pieces. They're a very dense group to get into.
Yeah.
Their quality curve is a bell curve.
It's more like a sine wave.
Yeah. And the only other thing I can wrap up with is, damn, I love me some Miyuki-chan in Wonderland.
Yeah, which is that just sums it up perfectly. Justin loves Miyuki-chan in Wonderland, and I bought my mom's copy of Miyuki-chan in Wonderland because she's like, hey Mike, this sucks, do you want to buy it for $1? Though I will say I did like Rigveda, which is one of their first OVAs, and very quickly, it's loosely based on the Hindu text of the same name.
Yes.
Hey guys, they did it again.
Man, we are really good at just rattling off terms, aren't we?
It's what we do.
Yeah. Doujinshi is an easy one. Basically, if you are a manga artist in Japan and you aren't yet published, or if you want to work with an established character, you self-publish.
Yep.
And the self-published manga, the self-published comics, are frequently referred to as doujinshi.
Yep. And in a broader spectrum, actually a lot of anything like that, like a lot of what we refer to here as indie games in the gaming world, in Japan are referred to as doujinshi games.
Yes.
Exact same concept.
Yeah, if you're working outside of the major publishing houses, if you're self-publishing, if it's limited run, doujinshi.
Well, the short answer is they're awesome.
The long answer is it's a kind of old, slightly sexist term for pretty girls with guns.
Yes. Now, of course, you need look no further than the great Kenichi Sonoda for a lot of examples there. As I often explain it to a lot of people who ask me that same question, take, what the heck was it, Boondock Saints? Make all the characters girls, bam.
Right. Usually a gun bunny anime is humorous, but not necessarily. Kite's a good example.
Yeah. Often, again, often but not always, also involving fast cars, see Riding Bean.
Yes. And typically, they're pretty far and few between. They've been that way mostly because it's taking a lot of Western concepts and then adapting them to animation. It's effectively, the idea is almost 80s buddy cop film,
yeah,
but with girls.
Yep. And of course, a certain studio has tried to make a few of these lately. You know, the one that we like to hit with the "you suck" bat.
Yeah.
Don't bother with those. Oh, and really quick, don't be fooled by Gunslinger Girl. 90% of the bullets that are fired in that entire series are fired in the first 15 minutes of the first episode.
Right.
It's not what you think it is.
No, you will be disappointed. And we also have to be honest, series that could be Gun Bunny Girl anime, because a Gun Bunny Girl anime tends to be present. They're usually set in the present. So stuff like Grenadier, not Gun Bunny. Yes, it's a pretty girl. Yes,
It's a Gun Bunny character, but it's not a Gun Bunny story.
Right. So, yeah, really we could just say Kenichi Sonoda works with the exception of Canon God Exactly.
Yep. Okay, this is one my mom bangs on about a lot. Okay, we'll start from a mechanical no, actually, we'll start from an aesthetic standpoint. From an aesthetic standpoint, mechs with high heels, as you will see several examples here, work. From a mechanical standpoint, they also work. That's why you design that. You need articulation in the foot. Not always. I mean, you see, you know, the MS-06 Saku, flat feet, no moving parts. Mm-hmm. But if you want further articulation, you need a joint there. Now, for it to go, you know, like this, you don't need that. But if it's going like that, you do. Yeah. And because there's such a gap, the reason there's such a gap is simple. The point that your foot rests when it's walking is usually just the front bit on a human foot anyway. But for a metallic construct, that would be pretty flimsy. So you want a larger surface, which is why most mech foots only have...
Hey, Mike?
Huh?
Your mom just sent that pic.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Never mind.
Yeah, we've got nothing for that one. Because Wing Zero Custom is fabulous. Well, for starters this week, since we spent all this time answering questions, we're not answering any more questions. Just take what we had to say for granted. However, this week, we have a guest recommendation from Mike's mom, which I think you'll enjoy, because you've really trotted out something with quite a pedigree.
Well, you know, around Christmas time you usually have those kind of sad and sorry old tales like White Christmas, The Christmas Story, and It's a Wonderful Life. Got something better for you. Tokyo Godfathers. It's a great story. It's about 3 homeless people. It's Christmas Eve. They hear a baby crying. They look in a dumpster and find a baby. And the rest of the story is trying to find the mother. Hilarity ensues, and as always with Christmas stories, miracles happen.
Yeah. And that's the positive angle of it. It's also Satoshi Kon work. So there is a lot of emotional turmoil to it. The homeless people in question each have their own personal demons. You have an alcoholic father, a runaway teen, and a cross-dresser. It's Satoshi Kon, so they're handled with a realism that very, very few anime directors ever approach. Of course, we lost Satoshi Kon several years ago. It was a huge blow to the anime world because he made several fantastic films and at least one great television series. And if you don't mind me tangenting a bit, Mom?
Not at all.
It's been rattling around in my brain a little bit. I have heard several times through some of the anime groups I belong to, that anime doesn't get enough respect and or recognition. Now, okay. This is said most frequently by fans of Bleach, fans of Naruto, fans of Dragon Ball Z, who want their interest legitimized by adults, by grown adults. So they say anime doesn't get respect. Anime doesn't get recognition. They're wrong. This film received rave reviews from every member of the film press. It was shown at Sundance, as was Cone's Paprika, Cone's Perfect Blue. Ebert, Roper, and Siskel were all anime fans. Several major members of the American Academy are major anime fans. Spielberg is an anime fan. They're fans of Miyazaki's work. They're fans of Mamoru Oshii. They're fans of Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, Jinro the Wolf Brigade, and Spirited Away. These are films with pedigree. These are films that are very well respected. And up to the current day, films like Skycrawlers, Secret World of Arietti. Just last year, a Japanese film was nominated for Best Animated Feature. Didn't take it, but was nominated. There are so many richly rewarded films, but they're films, and in some cases television series, of this caliber, dealing with mature subject matter, dealing with things that adults find riveting. You're not going to get adults to say that your children's show, which it is Oscar caliber work. But you will never hear the film world say anime doesn't produce worthy material, moving material. We have Oscars for this genre. We have Sundance Awards for this genre. We have legitimate respect for this genre. You just have to move on to find it. And thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
Well, sure.
Thank you for coming
Thank
on,
you.
and thank you for coming in
It was
to
a lot of fun.
the Maison here.
And I learned a lot. I really did. I was sitting over there on the couch listening this whole time, and I have another page in my notebook full.
Yes. And we were happy to have you. If you would like to be a guest on the show, by all means, message us through either our Facebook page or here in the comments. If you're in the greater Cleveland area, we'll work something out. But if you don't mind, Mom, we're going to need to get Mike in here to say
Sure.
farewell today.
Sounds good.
So, from all of us here at Maison Otaku, this is Mike
And Justin,
saying, enjoy what you watch.
and share what you enjoy. I should co-host with your mom more often.
働き子や一人ひた走る者まだ見ぬ世界あるか希望を抱いて信じる者はただ光る情熱熱く燃えたぎるぜ誰にも止められない心のビートいつの日か巡り合う愛の真実この世界の何もかも俺のもの友情で結ばれた熱い絆よ邪魔はさせない我が道行くぜ戦え戦え戦え戦え戦えオタキ愛する人を全て駆け抜けるもの輝く未来信じ夢を託して T シャツ濡らす汗男の勲章涙止まらないぜときめき忘れないぜ心のリフレイ流れゆく時を越え生まれ変わ タクと呼ばれる時がいつか来る青春の瞬間をつなぎ止めるぜ邪魔はさせない我が道行くぜ戦え戦え戦え戦え戦えオタキ永遠に変わらない俺の信念
Otaku tested, mother approved.